If your car stops moving, there's already no escape. Written by Not a Throwaway 128.
Sometimes, I reminisce about how life used to be. Like 3 weeks ago, before this all began, I would give everything just to have another week of a normal life. All the repetition, all the things I hated doing every day, I would take it all back in a heartbeat. It's funny how we don't realize how much stuff we take for granted until now. I'm pretty sure anyone's life would be better than whatever this is. At least my time on this planet is almost over. I know it sounds like I'm overreacting, but I truly cannot think about anything worse than what I'm experiencing right now. The whispers only make it worse. At first, I could barely hear them, dismissing them as my ears playing tricks on me. Now, they're all I can hear. 3 weeks ago, life was great. I was a lawyer with a beautiful wife and 2 kids. I was living my dream life. But that was the past. I was driving to work, which is half an hour away from my house, and everything was normal. Instead of heading straight home after work like I usually do, I decided to drive 10 minutes out of the way. At some point, my car just stopped. I hadn't pressed on the brake or anything, but it still stopped. Confused, I pressed on the gas. The car made a sound as if the wheels were turning, but I was not moving forward. Another car honked at me from behind, but I couldn't move my car. It was as if there was some kind of invisible barrier preventing me from moving beyond that point. The car behind me honked again, then switched lanes and passed right by me. They had just crossed the barrier like it didn't exist. I thought it was just my imagination until I saw another car do the same. By then, I was angry more than I was confused. So I got out of my car and tried to walk forward. It worked for a couple steps, and then I couldn't go any further. I could still move my legs and push forward, but it was like I was walking in place. I tried sprinting, but it ended with the same result. I wasn't crashing into anything, I just couldn't move forward. I still had the sensation of doing so, but I wasn't, and everyone around me was. After seeing a pedestrian, I threw away my dignity and grabbed onto her shoulder just as she passed the barrier. She continued to walk forward, but I was stopped. She turned around to give me a disgusted look, then walked away. That was when I started to hear the whispering. It was hard to hear, but I could make out the sound of hundreds of voices whispering. I dismissed it and drove home, feeling defeated. Later that night, I told my wife about it. She didn't believe me, as expected. She sounded genuinely concerned when she asked if I was feeling alright. I told her I was and decided to forget about it. The next week was normal, until I couldn't get to work. The barrier had seemed to move. It behaved the same way it did last time, the only difference being it was closer to my home. Now that I have a chance to think about it, I had never driven more than 30 minutes away from my house during that week, so I should have noticed sooner that it was following a pattern. I called in sick to work and didn't waste my time trying to get past the barrier this time. When I got home, I had the house to myself and decided to do some research. Unfortunately, I could not find anything relating to what I was experiencing. The next day, I still couldn't get to work, so I called in sick again. I spent the day trying to think of solutions. I was clearly the only one affected by this, so I was likely on my own in solving it as well. The next day, I still couldn't get to work. The solution I came up with was faking a fever for the next week, until both my boss and my wife found it suspicious. My boss was easy to fool, since I had a great relationship and he gladly gave me the month off when I requested. I opened up to my wife, as she was very skeptical, but agreed to test it with me to prove me wrong. We were driving and eventually the car stopped moving. She was baffled as she tried to figure out why the car couldn't move. Frustrated, she got out and walked in front of the car to confirm it didn't affect her. I did the same, but couldn't get past the car. She eventually tried to push me over. I stumbled forward, but my body didn't actually move forward. At this point, she finally believed me. I decided against telling her about the violently loud whispering I had heard the entire time. 4 days ago was the last time I left my house. My kids have noticed me not leaving, and I used the excuse that I was really sick. It killed me to lie to them, but it's better than them knowing the truth. Yesterday I could no longer leave my bedroom, and that's when the whispering really started. It was fairly quiet at first, but I could constantly hear it. It seemed to be coming from the barrier, which would make sense because it sounded like it was just a few feet away from me. Today I said goodbye to my wife and kids. I can't leave my bed anymore, and I don't want to imagine what will happen when it finally reaches me. With the whispers so loud and so close by, I finally figured out what the voices are saying. There is no escape for me, and I have to accept that. I'll update if I make it out alive, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen.